but the woman was created for the man. That sounds like something you'd find in a brothel. There are some churches allowing women to be clergy. That's ruled out in the Bible. You can't have women clergy. All they have to do is read 1 Corinthians 14:34-35. Let your women keep silent in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak. If they want to learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home. It is a shame for women to speak in the church. That's not me speaking, that's the Bible. How in the world can you have a woman as a clergyman with that type of philosophy dominating the scene? Science. Oh boy, does science take a beating in the Bible. It's terrible. The book talks about four-footed fowl. When's the last time you ever saw a chicken with 4 legs? Talks about 4-footed locusts, beetles, and grasshoppers. Those are insects. They have 6 legs. Much of this comes out of Leviticus. Talks about hares chewing the cud. Because a rabbit goes like this, they figure he's chewing the cud. No, rabbit's not a ruminant. Like cattle. It says the bat's a bird. You go to Leviticus 11, you got a list of 19 birds. The last one's a bat. Talk about a poor knowledge of science. Bat's not a bird, it's a mammal. Jesus even fouled up on the science end of this. In Matthew 13:31, he says the mustard seed is the smallest of all seeds. Many people have caught him on this one. It's not. The orchid seed, for instance, is smaller. I will say this about Jesus. I don't know of anybody in the Bible that made more false prophecies than he did. I have an entire section in my book on prophecies by Jesus that were erroneous. He stars in that regard. In fact, I have more chapters in my book on mistakes by him, virtually anything else I know of. Biblical science reminds me of the story of the 6-year-old boy who came home from Sunday school. And his mom said, well, Johnny, what'd you learn in Sunday school today? And he said, well, Mom, we learned about how that Moses was sent behind the enemy lines to rescue the Israelites and the Egyptians. And when they came to the Red Sea, Moses called for the engineers to build a pontoon bridge. And after they had crossed, they all looked back and saw the Egyptian tanks coming. And Moses radioed headquarters on his walkie-talkie and asked for the bombers to be sent to blow it up, save the Israelites. His mom looked at him and said, Johnny, is that really the way you learned that? He said, well, not exactly, Mom, but if I told it their way, you'd never believe it. Now, let's face it, any book that will tell you that sticks turned into snakes, a woman turned into a pillar of salt, a donkey talked, an axe head floated, people rose from the dead, the sun went back 10 degrees. I mean, anybody believe that silly nonsense will believe in anything. You couldn't make it too preposterous. Now we come to what to many is the crux of the matter, the biblical God. How people can go to church and worship the God of the Bible is beyond me. Have they looked at this individual's career? I don't think so. Either that or they're going by what the ministers and the priests and rabbis are telling them. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to read you a list of the deeds, the acts that God commits somewhere in the Bible, and I'd be glad to give chapter and verse to back up any of these. Now the list is rather long, because he's a bad person. He stars. He does all the following, and please, as I say, bear with me. He creates evil. Evil comes from the Lord. He deceives. He tells people a lie. He makes false statements. He rewards liars. He orders men to become drunken. He rewards the fool and the transgressor. He delivers a man, in this case Job, into Satan's hands. He mingles a perverse spirit. He's not omnipotent, which means he's not all-powerful. He causes indecency. He spreads dung on people's faces. He orders stealing. He makes false prophecies. He changes his mind. He creates evil. He orders the taking of a harlot. He kills people, in many places. He orders the killing of people. He has a temper. He's often jealous. He's not omnipresent, which means he isn't everywhere. He's not omniscient. It means he doesn't know all. He often repents. He practices injustice. He plays favorites. He sanctions slavery. He degrades deformed people. He punishes bastards for being illegitimate. He punishes many for the acts of one. He punishes children for their father's sins. He punishes a man for following his orders. He prevents people from hearing his words. He supports human sacrifices. He orders cannibalism. He demands virgins as a part of war plunder. He orders gambling. He requires an unbetrothed virgin to marry her seducer. He orders horses to be hamstrung. He sanctions the violation of enemies' women. He sanctions the beating of slaves to death. He requires a woman to marry her rapist. He teaches war. He orders the cooking of food with human feces. He killed the righteous and the wicked. He intentionally gave out bad laws. He excused the sins of prostitutes and adulterers. He excused the murderer and promised him protection. He killed a man and refused to impregnate his sister-in-law. He aided rather than punished a swindler. He doesn't see all. He's sometimes indecisive. He discovers women's secret parts. He breaks up families. He orders the killing of women and children. He killed over 50,000 people because a few looked into an ark. He gives unlimited eternal punishment for limited sins, which I discussed earlier. And he violates his own laws, one of which is thou shalt not kill. And nobody in the Bible kills more than he does. In other words, it's a case of do as I say, not as I do. Now, can you imagine any being that's supposedly perfect, saying, yes, that's my book, that represents me, that's the way I am? I can't think of an individual in history with a worse record than the God of the Bible. And that includes Adolf Hitler and Genghis Khan. To go even further, it's hard to think of one act that God committed in the entire Old Testament such you'd want to go up and hug him around the neck, kiss him on the cheek, and say, good job, I'm proud of you, well done. The devil, surprisingly enough, the devil comes out of the Bible looking a lot better than God does. Give me some bad acts committed by the devil in the Bible. You're going to have a hard time. You'd almost think the book was written by the devil about God. All I can say is, if there is a God, those people propagating this book, they got the devil to pay eventually. Because I don't think God's going to like this. You propagated that book. It's my book. Boy, am I going to take vengeance on you. He's really going to get even. I've been on quite a few radio stations, unfortunately, are censored. If you think combating the fundamentalist threat, the religious threat in this country is easy, try it sometime. Especially if you do a reasonably decent job. You'll find that being censored and kept off the airways is standard practice. I do have my own radio program every Sunday evening, but that's only on the internet. I've been trying to get a regular radio station, at least a program on a regular radio station. I know there's a market for what I'm doing because, as I say, when I'm on the air, the switchboard looks like a Christmas tree. I've had problem getting on public access. When I used to mail out my publication, the lady at the post office, she didn't like my publication, so she gave me all kinds of static on when it was going to be mailed, how it was going to be packaged and bundled and all this. Finally, I got so disgusted I called Cincinnati, her headquarters, and registered a complaint about the way she was treating me. When I made my programs at the public access station, the lady who directed it there was a Christian. She made no bones about it. She wasn't very happy with what I was doing, and she gave me a lot of static and problems. I used to call up radio stations. On Sunday morning, they have these call-in Christian stations. I always have one of these zinger questions I'm going to ask them. And one of the talk show hosts, his name was Mike Willis. After I'd called him about 8 or 10 times, he said right on the air, flat out, and these are his words, not mine, he says, I'm simply not going to allow you to destroy the effectiveness of this program.